Okay, good morning, Shalom Aleichem. We are in Shmuel Aleph, Perek Chav Gimel. We are really in the middle of the Perek. We discussed last week how David was hiding in a location called Ke'ilah. Ke'ilah is a border city that was attacked. The people weren't attacked by the Plishtim, but the granaries were attacked. And the Gemara says that when the granaries are attacked on a border city, it is more pressing and a more serious situation than just stam bandits or robbers that attack granaries elsewhere. And as a result of that, Chazal say that it was Shabbos, and you were obligated to violate Shabbos to protect the border cities, as they are very, very significant in terms of protecting the entire country. They play a very important role in protection of all of Eretz Yisrael. David went. We saw this is not the first time. We see many times the Ur V'Tumim is going to be invoked and going to be utilized in a very just like, seems like a laissez-faire way. Like, let's just ask the Ur V'Tumim what to do, and it tells us what to do. Maybe later on in the Sefer, we'll analyze that more. Are there rules that relegate the Urim V'Tumim? When are you allowed to ask of it? When you're not allowed to ask of it? Who is allowed to ask of it? And who can't? There are rules, which a lot of the rules are based on the psukim that we're learning now. They build a structure around a lot of the narrative in Shmuel Aleph. Yes. Good. So Yassi's pointing out that the Urim V'Tumim seemingly from the story in Chana, the first story that we know, there, right? Eli thought that Chana was a shikora, and really she was a kishera. And it seems like they just letters are highlighted. I don't know if I've ever seen that PBS TV show when I was growing up called Ghostwriter, like letters that like pop up. So from there, it seems like they just pop letters, get highlighted or lit up, and then that maybe is not too much, and it still is on the person to decipher. It could be, but maybe it depends on the person's level. We'll see. We'll see how much more we need to see in terms of that. Now, David goes to help out Ke'ilah, and what do you know? Word gets back to Shaul that David's in Ke'ilah, and David doesn't know what to do. This is a border city. It has a very strong fortified wall, and David doesn't know whether he should stay there or not stay there, because Shaul may take siege over the whole city. Ultimately, David decides to leave, asking the Urim V'Tumim what to do. He says the people of Ke'ilah are going to give you up. That's not a wrong thing. That's what they're going to do. David leaves with his 600 men. Yossi pointed out after the Shiur last week that earlier we said David had 400 men, and now he has 600 men. David becomes somewhat like a folk hero, right? Like a Pied Piper, where people are so like inspired by him and just want to be around him. And the people that he is taking in are people that are not necessarily the contributors to society, let's say. And those people which feel very marginalized in a typical society feel very close to David HaMelech, and they follow him. Yes?
Is this based strictly from Yehuda, or is it the verse through that?
We don't know exactly where the people are from. It seems like he maybe picks up 200 people over the past parak or so. Maybe they're from Yehuda because that's where he was in that location. But we don't necessarily know where the people are from. So David now is in the Midbar, in a place called Midbar Ziph. And that's really where we pick up this morning, where David is in Midbar Ziph, Pasuk Tes Vav. So David finds out, David leaves because he hears that Shaul wants to kill him, and he goes to hide out in this Midbar. Now, this is amazing. Who comes? We thought they would never meet again. Vayakam Yehonasan ben Shaul. We know who Yehonasan's father is. Why do you think the Navi needs to tell us that he is Yehonasan, the son of Shaul, comes to see David? No, why do you think that is necessary?
Emphasize the contrast to the previous custom, where Shaul comes out to kill him, and yet Shaul's son is coming to see his friend.
A major contrast between father and son. Because of this contrast, Yehonasan is really risking his life at this point. Shaul knows where his son stands, and it's probably likely. Shaul says to Yehonasan, "Come, let's go get David. We finally got him." In the back of his mind, he probably knows that there's no way that Yehonasan is going to be complicit in taking David or killing him. Yet he follows suit. And if he does anything else that is proactively against Shaul, who knows what he's going to do to him. Vayelech al David chorsha. He goes to David chorsha very quietly, most likely in the middle of the night. Vayechazek es yado be'elokim. And he strengthens his hand with Hashem. Now, what does this mean? He strengthens his hand, be'elokim, with Hashem. Rashi writes, Chidesh bris shebeinehem. He's mechadesh a bris. He establishes a covenant between the two of them. I am not gonna say where you are. I have your back. The Malbim, Rashi is wonderful, but he doesn't address why the word Elokim, Hashem, is there. What's Hashem doing here? It says the Malbim, Be'elokim Ratza Lomar, Amar lo shelo yira ki Elokim imo. You don't need to be afraid because Hashem is with you in your endeavor. Uve hashkachaso yimalatehu minitzar. Yehonasan went to him specifically to tell him, according to the Malbim, you don't need to be afraid. My father's coming for you, but have no fear. Ve'ha'ikar lo lefachikla. You don't. I don't know who wrote that song. Kol alam kulo gesher tzar meod. It's not a pasuk in Tehillim. Who wrote that song? What? No. Kol alam kulo. How old is that song? No, you sing it as kids, right? You're not going to believe it. Rav Nachman of Breslov. It's in Likutei Maran. Okay, Shiur is going to write that one down. Right? It's in Likutei Maran. He didn't come up with the two. I think that was A.B. Ron. But I think so. But those words, it's actually one word. It's not Ve'ha'ikar. He changed one word. It's Va'ikar lo lahafchid. Klal is in Rabbi Nachman. He made it lo lefached klal. Okay, now for now, what's the difference? Lahafchid, lafached. So the Radak adds here one more point. What was he doing? The Radak adds in, Chazak yadosh lo yira b'davar elokim. Don't be afraid. That's why he came. And don't be afraid. You know why? You're still going to be the next king. Have no fear. Have no fear. Hashem is with you. Have no fear. You're going to be protected. My father is not going to kill you. He never said, my father's not going to hurt you. That he can't promise. And number 3, I know you'll become the next king. Pasuk Yud Zayin. Ve'omer Lav. He's mechazik him. He's giving him chizuk.
Rabbi, it seems to me that David could not get a nevuah because he was scared, he wasn't happy. But
Okay.
Hashem gave the nevuah to Jonathan, so he could tell it over to David.
Okay, it could be. It doesn't seem to be a nevuah. I'm just going to push back a little bit, Yossi, on you, because I don't know. I can't tell you if Yonatan and Navi are nevuah. We can look at the Gemara Megillah. The Gemara Megillah tells us the list of prophets through history. I don't know if he's on the list. But we do know that David composed a lot of Tehillim in these challenging and situations. How can he do that? He was besimcha. He was besimcha, running away. That he was. The answer was he was besimcha, even in these situations. Yeah.
I have a problem with this someday. There's someone always they have a smile on their face and looking to say that, as kumbaya or happy, it's very hard to do that. See, what I would think, this is just my opinion, if somebody always can come out of anything on the positive side, to me, sometimes the negative things are very bad. But to always say, this is the way of Hashem, and this will be a positive thing. I read something the Jewish press this week about a person who came to America and was totally wiped out, all their money. He had to stay another 2 years, and by staying another 2 years,
Saved his life.
he saved his life. So he went back to Europe to his family, and he was an American citizen at that.
Yeah.
That saved his life. That's what you say. Don't say this is weird, but God has his way. But to say that someone's Sameach,
So
I don't get it.
So I push back on Yossi, I'll push back on you. That when we say somebody's besimcha, I don't think that means that they have a huge, smile on their face that's plastered there. Besimcha means that they understand there's a plan here, that they're on a mission, they understand there's something bigger here. Of course there are setbacks. It's not a question. Of course there are moments, close moments in their life. We'll see right now, David HaMelech almost gets killed by Shaul numerous times, over and over again. It'll be a major close call if we get to the end of the barrack today. But they understand there's a master plan there, and there's a way for them to act. It doesn't mean they're like Gam Zula Tova, living Kol David Rahman Latava. Every Hashem, that to me is like the besimcha we're talking about over here. There's a higher level of Ivdu as Hashem besimcha. There's a higher level of like dancing, and that's not. I don't think not necessarily. That's Rav Elimelech ben Lejinsk would dance when he was thrown into jail. I don't know if that's a different level. It's a different level. Here it's that there's an understanding of things are different. I can relate to this during Rav Kook. Rav Kook died in 1935, 1936. At some point in Rav Kook's life, he was living in Israel, and he had to travel to England, and he got stuck for, I think, a significant amount of time in England. Major amount of time. And what happens when you get stuck for such a long time? You can eventually become like bitter and angry. Family, I'm supposed to do this. I had plans to grow a yeshiva. I wanted to accomplish this. I'm not where I'm supposed to be. In that time, he wrote a Kabbalistic work on the Aleph base. You can have all these ideas why the Aleph base specifically, why, but there's certain people, and you don't need to be a Gadol b'Yisrael to be one of those people, that have a different way of looking at the world and world events and personal events. David HaMelech was maybe one of the first that we can relate to, where we see him going through tragic moment after tragic moment, and how he does not look at it that way. Vayomer, I love, and here he needs chizuk, and that's something to learn also. Yonatan was his best friend, and Yonatan knows my friend needs chizuk, and he gave him chizuk.
It's interesting, in Ted Zion and Yud Zion, where there's a contrast by a chesed and gadol Elohim, and then in the next passage, lo timtzah yad shavu, so you've got the two yad. One
Yeah.
is, that's a contrast.
Contrast, yad Elohim, yad Shaul.
Because Hashem's going to strengthen your yad.
If you hold on to God, Shaul's not going to get you. Vayomer love al tira, don't be afraid. Ki lo timsacha yad Shaul avi. Yad Shaul avi is not going to find you. An interesting way of saying it, right? The hand of Shaul is not going to touch your body, creep up on you. Vatatim lochal Yisrael. You will be king. Anochi yayelech ala Mishnah. And I'm going to be second in command. That's a big person. He is the son of the king, and he's saying, I'm still going to be second fiddle. Second fiddle is nothing, it's pretty chashiv. Megam Shaul avi yodeh. He says, my father knows this too. He thinks he doesn't know it. He knows this too. Says the Malbim, here, Yehonatan is giving Shaul David reasons why he for sure should not be afraid. Number one was Hashem. Number two was, you should know, he doesn't know your place. So my father can't get to you because we think the same way. I know where you're hiding. I'm not going to tell him, and he's not going to figure it out. Number three, you're going to be the king, and we know that. And number four, and he knows himself, and he's afraid himself. You don't need to be afraid. My father's more afraid of you. What do we say all the time to kids? Like, you don't need to be afraid of that. They're more afraid of you than they are. My father is super afraid of you. Pasuk they make a covenant, a deal between the two of them, Lifnei Hashem, before God. Right? They invoke God as a witness, Ki'ilu, in what they're doing. Vayeshe David bechorsha, and they sit in quiet. Yehonasan halach lebeso, and Yonasan goes back home. So David is very much protected. Yehonatan at this point is smart. He doesn't go to Shaul. Shaul is probably in an encampment near the Midbar. He doesn't go back to him. What would happen if he goes back to him right now? Right.
It's close.
And if he goes back home, he's not going to get interrogated. Shaul hopefully he's going to forget about it, and he's just going to go home and Shalom Yisrael. Vaya'alu pasuk Yites Zifim el Shaul hagivasa. The people of Ziph come to Shaul, and they tell him, "Halo David misater imanu v'mitzados." David is hiding with us in the fortresses in Midbar Ziph, Bachorsha. We know exactly where he is. Now, Adoni Hamelach, Yechi Adonenu, right? We will do our best to entrap him. We will close up and fortify the Midbar so you can come and get, right, the FBI's most wanted man, David Hamelach. Chafal. Vayomer Shaul bruchim atem lashem ki chamaltem alay. Almost like, blessed are you, Hashem, Ki chamaltem alai. Because, what does it mean, ki chamaltem alai? How would you define those words? Chemler. What would you expect a king?
This is pretty pathetic.
It's pathetic, right?
Yeah.
Right? What would you expect a king to say? You know, right now, I just read this morning that Israel returned over 1,000 hostages in 2001. And two of the hostages are brothers, and they were involved in planning the October 7th attack. One of them was pronounced dead by Hamas in 2014. But they have strong knowledge that Israel put out yesterday, that he's alive and he's been hiding in the labyrinths of tunnels under Gaza for the past 9 years. And his expertise is in, attacking the borders, and he was likely behind me. So, and they said he's like maybe number 4, number 7 on their list of people of other targets. Not even number 1. Now, just imagine a moment where the people of Gaza say they come back over the border at night, and somehow they get word to the general of the army, Yoav Gallant, Netanyahu, and they say to him, "We know where they are." What's going to be his response? What's he going to say? Okay, let's say they go through all of the protocols, and they bring proofs that this is, and they are telling the truth. They're telling 100% the truth. Thank you so much. You are a patriot. We're going to take care of you. This is amazing. This is not just for you, the people of Gaza. We'll take care of you. He's not going to say, "Thank you so much for having pity on me." Right? This is, in Shaul's eyes, and maybe it seems like a lot of people have been convinced that David now is a fugitive. Thank you very much. He's an enemy of the state. Shkoyach. Well, you want a reward? $10,000? We got your reward. It's Shaul's instinctive reaction is not one of power. It's not one of it's not kingly. It's from a very low perspective. Baruchim atem Lashem ki chamaltem alai. So I don't know if they're going to pick up on this, or if people slowly are going to pick up on what's happening here. This is a very personal feud and not a national or international issue. But this is saying that it's very personal and very private and should not have been made into a very public thing. L'chuna hachinu od ud'u ruas kol. So Shaul says, been there, done that. I'm not just going blindly anymore. Go back and do more homework. Maybe this would be what the people of God, if they came, halavai, with the do more recognizance. We need these list of things to prove that this is accurate. Asher tieh raglo mira'o sham kimarle arum ya'rimu. Because we know that David is a very tricky guy. Chas v'shalom. Am I equating David to, right? Chas v'shalom. But just from the Shaul end, so that you can understand and appreciate what's happening to Shaul. So he says, I know, right? We know that he's a tricky person, that he's very sly. So how do we know this? So Rashi says, because the people said that he's very creative in terms of, these are the people from Ziph, and he lived there their whole lives, and David just got there, and it's obvious that he knows what he's doing. Other Mepharshim say that Shaul says, I know that he's a tricky guy. How does he know this? Because you know what happened? David would go and win these battles over and over again. Push everyone, knock them out. And Shaul said, how'd you do that? We've been trying to fortify this city for years. We've been trying to get them out of this city or this front or this border for decades. You come in a day and you're done. So he says to him, because I did this trick, or they thought I was there and I was there. So Shaul knows firsthand that David is a very, he knows the land and he knows warfare. He's very smooth and he's very, tricky in terms of David was very small. And if you could appreciate that, when you are, think about like Hashgacha Pratis, his size taught him that he doesn't rely on his brute strength. He needs to rely on his brains. And so Shaul knows that he's not necessarily going to be where he was. So I need more proof. I need a list of all the potential hiding places. Right? Because if not, I'm going to end up like looking for him forever, and this will be a big waste of time. So they go before Shaul. So he's like in one specific place in the desert. So they come back to tell him, and Shaul says, okay, that's good enough proof. I'm going to come in. And he's in a midbar called Midbar Ma'on. It's a part of, I don't think it's a city Ma'on. The city Ma'on is near Hebron. This is in Midbar Yehuda. And Shaul now is closing in on David. He's closing in on David. Vayelech Shaul mitzad hahar mizeh v'David v'anasha mitzad hahar mizeh. To the point where there's a mountain. Shaul's people are on this side of the mountain, and David's people are on this side of the mountain. David now is a bit overwhelmed, a bit unsure what's going to happen next. Shaul and Hashem utrim el David. They are a taraz, a crown. They're like encircling David. The El and Hashav Tafsam, and they're like about to get him. They're about to get David. By the way, there's a great book just on hostages and enemies, and you want to read a good book, and it doesn't get your mind out of the news, but it's called Rise and Kill First. It discusses how Israel and the Mossad worked together to kill a lot of the enemies of the Jewish people since the beginning of the state in 1948. It's a very, very excellent book. They were given a lot of classified documents to write the book. And a lot of near misses. It's very, very fascinating. Umalach ba el Shaul. So as this is happening, a malach, not literally an angel, but a messenger comes. And it says, Leimor mehara v'leicha kifashtut b'shlemus aretz. Gotta run. Who's back? Philistines. They're back. On Wednesday, we'll talk about the role of the Plishtim in terms of anti-Semitism. Not the Palestinians today, but the role of Plishtim. There are three faces of anti-Semitism we'll talk about on Wednesday. Glasses came back just in time for this year. You thought you came back for weddings, came back for, great. Vayashev Shaul mirdov acharei David vayelech likras Plishtim akin karu lamakom ahu selah hamachlokos. To your Shaul, you have enemy number one right here in front of you, almost in your hand. You have a national issue with a warring nation coming to attack. What do? What do? What? You fight the bigger threat. That's what Shaul ultimately does. They call this place Selah HaMachlokos. Why is it called Selah HaMachlokos? So Machlokos could mean Chelak to split up. That this is a place where Shaul and David split. They're going to get reunited soon. There'll be more near misses. Or Selah HaMachlokot, the Radak says, they argued. Shaul's people internally argued about what they should do. Should they stay and pursue David, or should they get off? And others explain it the following. The Radak has a different interpretation. David v'avadav ovrim al osam makom, hayim mischalik michal Yosef. When David and his men were riding on their horses, when they got past this place, they slipped off the horses. Mechalek. They got off their horses and they thanked Hashem because this was a miracle. This was a miracle. The fact that the Plishtim came at this moment was a miracle. So they came to thank Hashem, Selah Machalkos, they from slipping off. They came off at this moment. Vayal David Misham, B'mitzudos, the last two words, Ein Gedi. He goes to Ein Gedi, the famous city, Ein Gedi, the famous hike and water. I was just there in the summer. So many people were in Ein Gedi. So we'll learn about Ein Gedi. There are stories of David by Ein Gedi, and there are Tehillim that David composed literally by Ein Gedi that we know of. There are places that we think that David was there, and that's where David ends up in Ein Gedi, which is further into Midbar Yehuda. It's further down into Midbar Yehuda. You have to just keep on going past it, and you will find it. It actually is a place now where seminaries and yeshivas. When I was in Israel 2 weeks ago, I did go to visit some of our children that are learning in Eretz Israel. I went to visit some of my students from Nala, and one of the hardest parts is that they can't go on trips at all. It was very cute. One seminary had like an intercamp. Versus they had they paid machanayim against different seminary, because they had to be so creative. What do you do? They're not gonna. They can't go to the old city. They're very limited. So now Ein Gedi was open to them. So I saw a lot of seminaries went to Ein Gedi over the past few days, because at least they can go there. That area, Baruch Hashem, is quiet. So they're able to go on a hike there. Okay, wish everybody a wonderful day.